So I hear more and more and more, you know, about problems with people not being vaccinated. I mean, my sister was even saying her kids are in Holland. Oh, nobody's, you know, nobody's wearing masks, nobody's doing anything, and it's fine. I'm like, well, we'll see in the statistics in months and years from now how fine it is. So get your vaccinations. And if there's a booster, yes, that is a problem with the pharmaceutical companies being so greedy. You know, they produce all sorts of stuff. But this is not the case. This is not the situation to be, you know, no, I'm just gonna do what I want. I mean, this is serious shit. Believe me, I've had this discussion with, you know, France. Believe me, Europe is the same. You know, this over-vaccination of children, it is a problem, but this is a different situation, and people should realize the difference. So wear your masks and get vaccinated. So I added in some cards. This is getting more into like social issues or specific cases. I mean, I'm trying to vary it a little bit there. I think I'm going to try, well, some on solutions. Different programs and different things that I've seen in my long life as an old lady. Oh, I loved it. Meghan Markle. I keep up with the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry soap opera. That's what it is. Through Lady C. Campbell, Lady Colin Campbell. And she was saying that Meghan Markle, I don't know, she, you know, some interviews that she's going to do, she will only allow the people asking questions to be African American and young. Lady Colin Campbell was like, oh, this is dictatorship type stuff. And she was totally right. But oh God, I mean, Meghan Markle is out of control. Absolutely. Well, she and Oprah Winfrey, well, the whole Hollywood crowd. Yeah, they want to be the new royalty of the United States, and they are actors. I mean, yeah, well, these aren't falling out, right? Okay, there we got some. Oh, they fell off the top, but okay, let's just do two. It's still early, and let's see what, if I do another one this evening. I'm so tired of this place. All I do is stay in my room. So I'm like, well, I'll sit here with my monologues. Okay. I'm gonna start decorating my pot of gold. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Because I was just looking. Somebody up there is listening. right before I finished this, I was, hold on, let me pull up something. Looking at this one. Okay. First, in the first pile, we've got my alma mater, Foxcroft School in Middleburg, Virginia. And let's move on. So, sorry, I didn't. Can't be without your lipstick. Okay. The second card is branding campaigns, if you will, social media and branding campaigns in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, oops. Okay, this is about Bogota when I was in Bogota, around, I guess what precipitated, I would say, me eventually becoming president, but that's about leadership, if you will. So then in pile 2, again, we have Ben Carson, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Now, my memory serves me, Governor Cuomo was in this position under Clinton. I'm not sure what years. And in this one, in pile 3, Marco Rubio, Senator for Florida. I mean, I got tons of stuff I could talk about on Florida. Okay, here we've got, this is pile 3, second card. My childhood friend from Tucson, Arizona, Lucy Herman. And she's at Stanford Law nowadays. Okay, let's start with Foxcroft. I mean, it is funny because I was just pulling up some stuff on some of the people because it wouldn't fit on the card, everything that. Okay, Foxcroft School is, if anybody doesn't know, is not familiar with the prep schools on the East Coast of the United States, is, when I went there, at least, and this is its reputation and it's still going on that reputation, it wasn't known for being the best academically. I mean, it wasn't in the category of Choate, Hotchkiss, Exeter, the top. It was, I don't know, within the B's, the B level, if you will, in terms of intelligence of the student body and academic excellence. However, because I had even looked at going to Choate the year after my sophomore year, and they said they would accept me, but since I wasn't a straight A student, which I never was, I'd have to repeat a year. And I was like, no freaking way, I'm getting out of high school and independent on my own as soon as possible, and there's no way I'm adding on another year. So for me, that was like a clincher. Also, it was much bigger and it was more like a factory type. I mean, so perhaps, sure, Exeter, Hotchkiss, Choate. I mean, there was, as I say, there's the A category, the B category, and I guess the Tucson I went to in Tucson would be C. So within these schools, uh, academically, there is a difference. And of course, intelligence level. However, as I keep on pointing out and pointing out, I mean, Lady Colin Gamble is another, she's like, oh, she's 100. I don't know what IQs are, but I mean, I don't know what mine is. My mom didn't want to tell us. But and for me it's kind of irrelevant because we got so many pompous people out there. Yeah, some of them are smart, or they would be if they didn't have their head stick in the sand and trying to impress everybody. I mean, so anyway, it's like just because you have a high IQ, believe me. There are many, many, many people out there with high IQs that live up in some ivory tower, so they don't know so much. So anyway, that's Foxcroft School, and it is it's from the robber barons. Let me just read you. It was founded in 1914 by Charlotte Haxel Noland, a college prep school, boarding and day school for girls 9 to 12 near Middleburg, Virginia. In its century of existence, Foxcroft has educated the daughters of corporate titans and congressmen, including women from the Rockefeller, Carnegie, Mellon, and Astor families. It is accredited by the Virginia Association of Independent Schools, National Association of Independent Schools, and founding member of the National Coalition of Girls' Schools. So I'm not gonna, there was, in the fall of 2014, Standard Oil heiress Ruth T. Bedford, a member of the class of 1932, unexpectedly donated $4 million to the school in her will. A year later, the school announced the establishment of the Ruth T. Bedford 32 Merit Scholarship for the Arts. It gives $25,000 a year to the beneficiary. But then there is the foxhound tradition. So during World War I, students at Foxcroft were not allowed to return home. To cope, the founder of the school, Miss Charlotte, started a now long-standing tradition called Foxhound as a way for the girls to spend their time. The entirety of the school, including the teachers, are split up into two teams, the Foxes and the Hounds. The teams rival each other in 3 sport competitions: field hockey, fall, basketball, winter, and horseback riding, spring. Each year, the battle for the cup is renewed and the teams compete for the cup, which is earned from a victory in the big team basketball game. Well, I won't get into all of it. It's just another little paragraph. But I read the Foxhound thing for a reason. But as you can see, this is very much the robber baron school and the descendants of that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Notable alumni: Jane Forbes Clark, president and trustee of the United States Equestrian Team Foundation, chairman of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Now I got a card in here that'll come up with the horse world. This is important here, but we won't talk about that now. Mary Todd Hunter Clark Rockefeller, first wife of Nelson Rockefeller. Frances Fitzgerald, Pulitzer Prize winning writer. Nina Fout, Olympic equestrian. I knew because she had come back. I was still there, and she was an assistant. with Miss Margaret. Miss Margaret was the tyrant who ran the stable, and she worked with Miss Margaret, was like the assistant, you know, teacher, assistant, Miss Margaret. Ursula Klasnick, Austrian diplomat and politician, exchange student 1971-72. Olivia Stokes Hatch, socialite and American Red Cross volunteer. Gertrude Stanford Legendre, socialite and World War II spy. Ruth DuPont Lord, psychotherapist, writer, and arts patron. Pamela Mars, chairman, Mars Incorporation. I'll mention her in here. Victoria Mars, chairman of Mars Incorporated, secretary of the board of trustees of Foxcroft School. Cordelia, but I think she's ex-secretary, but Cordelia Scaife May, philanthropist. During her life, one of the wealthiest women in the US. Mary McFadden, art collector, editor, fashion designer, and writer. Rachel Lambert Mellon, Bunny, heiress, horticulturist, creator of the White House Rose Garden. Elizabeth Meyer, equestrian. Lisa Polzer, daughter and son, daughter of fashion designer and socialite Lily Polzer. Keisha Knight Pullman, actress, The Cosby Show. I don't think I put her name on there, but Chris Todd Whitman, former head of the EPA, Christine Todd Whitman, former head of the EPA, former governor of New Jersey. Stephanie Zimbalist, actress, Remington Steele. Molly Wilmont, philanthropist and socialite. And Cornelia is not on there because Cornelia technically, I mean, I'm assuming, but Cornelia technically is not an alumni of Foxcroft because she dropped out. I think, you know, like I think it was the summer between her sophomore and junior year, because she was going to ride the circuit. So, yeah, I guess she didn't need to finish high school to do that. I mean, I think everybody was like, what? I mean, I was like, how could her parents allow her to drop out of high school when in that day, I mean, now you need a PhD and MBA and look at you, or speak to you. But, you know, you needed a bachelor's at least. I mean, I was just like, but of course, you know, her mom said in some interview, well, at least my daughter didn't hate me. And I was like, yeah, like most of your friends' daughters, because you let your daughter drop out of high school and hang out at Studio 54 and do whatever she wanted. So of course she didn't hate you. But I would never have let my kids drop out of school, but they never hated me. I mean, you know, there is a balance between being, you know, so strict, your children, you know, cannot move and have don't develop any sense of identity and do whatever you want, have fun. I mean, you know, I would say either way, it's entitled children and it's narcissistic entitled children that you're bringing up. But I mean, I don't know what's worse. Because one produces a control freak themselves, or the other produces, you know, anarchists like I have living in this house. Oh, and many other I know. So, you know, it gives the same dysfunctional result. And the solution is a more balanced education. And that's, you know, why also I'm glad I ended up staying at Foxcroft, because it wasn't, you know, this hyper competitive academic bullshit. Because really it is bullshit. You know, straight A's, and you have to be top of the class and all of this competitive stuff. I mean, I told my sons, you know, I want you to excel in the courses that really interest you and the subjects that interest you, and, you know, really apply yourselves there, because that's, you know, where you should be building your eventually your careers. But and the other stuff is important, all of it, you know, even if you're into science, well, you should learn arts and sports. And I mean, this is one of the problems with the nerds. They have no balance in their lives any more than anybody else. So, you know, they become these totally dysfunctional people as adults, just as much as the, you know, Real Housewives, bimbos, the new Stepford wives, out in your suburbs and country clubs. I mean, both are just as stupid. I mean, I don't know which is producing more harm, one in the science world, the other in the social world. So, you know, unfortunately, I mean, I haven't gotten any support from anybody at Foxcroft. I mean, not even heard from them. I mean, we're all on Facebook. I've been posting things I mean, I even signed up before I got back to the United States, and posting all of the research, everything that I'm doing, all of the problems that are going on in Washington, and none of them, you know, it's like none of them react. So I have to say, I don't care, just like everybody else around me. I mean, everybody is so fixated on, you know, their get rich schemes, or grappling up the ladder of success, or whatever the case may be, at every level. And the world be damned. So, I mean, but I'm sure I said something about this, I think, in the beginning, that what it would have been, it's August 2020, I had seen an email, you know, that was in my inbox for them looking for speakers for Courageous Conversation. They do several during the year. And, you know, all of these things normally happen out at Foxcroft. Well, I don't have the money to go out there. Now, cronyism is 85% in Washington, D.C. A lot of these people know people in Washington, and I'm not a dumb bimbo that they would be embarrassed to recommend for a job. I can do, you know, all sorts of jobs. Yes, I can, you know, don't put me in the computer program. That's a mistake. Yeah, things like that. Yes, granted, there's, you know, however, you know, in the think tanks, I mean, I remember when Jacob Helbrom, he comes in, he's with the federal something or other, with Dimitri Simes. See, this is also a problem, but I won't get into those two. But with Jacob Helbrom, one time he came in and I had sent him a letter, and kudos to him, because I think he's the only one who's ever read my letter. And he came in, he said, I read your letter. He said, you're right. But what are we supposed to do? And I'm sitting there going, well, excuse me, is there something wrong with this picture? That here is this hostess, the manager's crashing the place and they have her as a hostess because they don't want her raining on everybody's parade. That you're saying, what are we supposed to do? And she has the answer. And you don't do it, and nobody like, oh yeah, well, okay. It was, give me a voice, let's go to the courts and we clean this up. See, deep down, everybody here knows that they're part of the little party, and their partying is going to end if they're held to account. I mean, from top to bottom, believe me, I get attitude from everybody from top to bottom, because they do realize that if the problems of corruption and nepotism and stupidity and mismanagement and bureaucracy, I mean, I can go on and on and on, managerialism, affirmative action, again, at Safeway today. I mean, this is really part of what's escalating the violence at the street level. I mean, the Black women in Safeway, more and more attitude. I mean, I've even said, I mean, it's mainly the Black men who speak to me. But, I said, I know these little white bitches over in Cleveland Park, white dumb blonde bitches, are obnoxious and give you attitude, and they've been doing it for a long time. And believe me, I see it, but that doesn't justify you doing the same. And particularly in this area, where and if you get over to Cleveland Park, where most of them live, because most of them don't come over to Mount Pleasant. But on Columbia Road, you got Adams Morgan, and it's not quite as expensive as Cleveland Park, but it's the same. It's a powder keg. And for example, the corporations are also responsible. I mean, these are their employees. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, I diverge. But so Foxcroft really, yeah, born, bred, and raised with the robber barons and in the pockets of the robber barons. I mean, yeah, my family doesn't have any money. However, and I didn't start, I mean, my social media campaigns really only started, yeah, I guess with Sean Penn in 2016. And that, my dad helped me a lot with that in our family tree. I mean, it was a walking encyclopedia about history, European and American history. And our family tree that goes back to Thomas Wilcox. Well, there's two Thomas Wilcox. The one is the admonitions to Parliament, Puritan Manifesto, that's 1571. Then the other is the Drop of Honey and the Rock Christ. It changes also the title kind of every time. That's another Thomas Wilcox in the 1600s. I don't know exactly when that document, I can't find a date, but it was in the I think he was born 1621, and you know, I don't know. And then also John Dickinson and everything about, I mean, I know he had always said that one of our ancestors or somebody in our family tree had been the only founding father not to sign the Declaration of Independence. But I mean also my mom, that's a whole other can of worms. Yeah, and I knew about my grandfather. He was the first white lawyer white lawyer, of course, in the Deep South to defend a Black man in 1910 in Butler, Alabama. I think, I'm pretty sure you talked to us about John Paul Jones as well. But, you know, I mean, I don't know, yeah, it was kind of cool. I don't know, I never really thought about it, I'll tell you the truth. It was just part of the family tree. And, but this, of course, got into what I was looking at, and the going back into constitutions. I mean, you know, I started with the Spanish Constitution and building my case in Spain, but I'm looking at everything under constitutions and democratic principles at that level, as well as international conventions. So, you know, he was really helpful with all the stories about that. So, you know, that is, I would say, it was my branding campaign there, because I also got into William Penn. And I jokingly said, well, I don't know if Sean Penn and William Penn, what the you know, family link is, but they got to be related. William Penn, I think he got kicked out of boarding school, I think twice, two different ones. Then he ended up in the Tower of London, I think 6 times. I think that it was something like, after that, it was kind of like, okay, let's ship him off to the colony. Give him a charter. So this kid that we, you know, he's you know, if he'd gone to boarding school, he's not from a poor family. We can't like string him up. So maybe we'll just ship him out of here. I don't remember. I mean, this is going back to 2016. But I got into all of that. But I mean, it's like, come on, okay, they got the robber barons, but I got the founding fathers. Doesn't that count for anything? I mean, Cornelia Guest launched all of this debutante and golden age and you know, young virginal girls being offered up to the old farts. You know, who are the motor of the Fourth Reich during that time. I mean, you know, you talk about your libertine death of liberalism by Bernard Mandevillean libertines. And that's what happened in the 1980s and golden age. And that's, you know, this whole trickle down. Well, you introduce that at the same time that you introduce the narcissism epidemic. So what's wrong with this picture? Not gonna work out. But since nobody looks at the big picture, they're just all on their little, you know, different agendas. I guess I'm the only one seeing it, I don't know. So it's like, you know, it's like I'm not some, and also I would put money down that I'm probably the most intelligent student alumni that they have. So why have I been canceled? I mean, you know, I don't accuse the people of anything, but here are the facts. I offer even to speak. I mean, that was El Colmo. They've been ignoring me all of these years, and everything that I'm exposing of what's going on in Washington. And, you know, Versailles doesn't want to be bothered, and, you know, let them eat cake. I mean, Judge Newman of Arlington Court, he's out there. Crap that he's pulling in Arlington courts. How is it that nobody in that community that I covered? It was just after the Sean Penn blogs. I think there was, in between that, there was Harper Lee's passing, but then I did the Aaron Eddy court watch. And I mean, I was horrified. It's the only court watch I've done, except my own, but you know, yeah, okay. Let's just say I would have done a better job if I had been an objective observer rather than my life on the line. I mean, I knew that oh, did I take note? I saw through all their little games. I put some of that stuff in there, so you'll see some of the games that they're playing within the courts. So you know, you just have to pose the question: why am I not being given a voice? I have no problem with all of these people on here having their voice, and even when we get to the end of the line, and I say, wait a second, you all have been complicit to the rise of the Fourth Reich. They should be given a voice, and they should be given due process. This was one of the problems with the Nuremberg trials after World War II. And it was in part, the legal system and the court system has always been problematic. But you know, you'll go, particularly depending on which, you know, social movements and civil rights movements are going on at the time. You'll see better and worse and better and worse. What we need is to get it up towards the better and fix the problems. But after the Nuremberg trials, the failure to have any kind of due process really, and that helps set the stage, I believe, much of the ideology of that the victor wins and payback within the Bretton Woods initiatives, because that's totally and you know, unfortunately the Americans and the Europeans just use that as a vehicle to try and control the world, dominate. And now the other factions around the world, you know, the Brazilians, the South Africans, the Indians, the Saudi Arabians, Chinese, Russian, all of those are just, well, okay, we're going to get in the game too. The World Bank particularly, we're going to fight poverty. Well, it stopped poverty in some of those countries or lessened it so that they could rise up and topple their benefactor. So, and of course, the benefactor is not going to do that willingly, and then that's when you're going to get another war. If this whole power over and everybody for themselves paradigm continues, it's inevitable. So, I'm playing, I'm laying my cards down. I played my, I bet my farm. And everything that I have to say is based on what the facts and evidence have shown me. So why can't we have a discussion? Why am I silenced? Not only why is it, or have they sanctioned my silencing by, we don't want to bother with the little people. Or they're doing it intentionally because they're threatened that my voice will threaten them. Questions to be asked. So anyway, as I said, Cornelia, I already mentioned her. I call her the cheerleader of the golden age, the cocaine snorting golden age. So on the board of trustees right now, you have Kate Hastings, who is of Fidelity Bank. She's a 78 graduate. Then there's a vice chair, Natalie James Wiltshire. She's from 95. She's the vice chair, the COO of KIPP, K-I-P-P schools. Well, I Googled that earlier. I actually did this one today. And it's a, it's got quite a bit of criticism about being very controlling, very, not positive reviews, if you will. There is a huge problem in the educational system, enormous. And the first time I had heard about charter schools was at the 2016 spring meetings. And there was this is all for the CSO reps that they're doing. And there was a seminar, speech on education that I went to. And they were talking about charter schools. And this is in Africa. And the damage that those schools are doing to the educational system. And I have to agree with them. We need good public education, available for everybody. This whole, we'll do a hybrid and try and get, some good schools for a few of the ones who can pass the tests, and the other kids who can't keep up, who cares for what, why, are going to get shit. No. This is one of the reasons why I'm challenging the prep schools, because Foxcroft is just one example. I'm using them as an example, obviously, because I'm an alumni from there, and this is also their social media motto is where you make friends for life. Like, well, with friends like these, who needs enemies? So, that motto, they just want to produce this picture perfect world, and everything is rosy with techie liberalism. We just need to get women into math and science. All of the same trends that you see within the development community, HR, the HR department, the corporations. corporate America, well, corporate world, government agencies, across the board, universities, academia, all of them have embraced managerialism, minoritism, Alpha-Dominance feminism, and affirmative action. And anybody who doesn't like it is going to be shut up, because they're making a lot of money off of all of this. So nobody, don't rain on our parade. So this Kate Hastings, she's with Fidelity Bank with some family services. Oh, excuse me, I was with the KIPP schools. So of course she's not going to support me, because I'm an adversary to her and that agenda. And this is one of the problems. It's producing these overly strict and overly demanding schools of children. You need to make classes more interesting. And you also, education is not just about sitting at a desk and memorizing things. A lot more than that. So I got a big divide with many of my former alumni on political issues, social issues, but also what our educational systems are about. It has to, yes, you want a certain, I'm not saying get rid of private secondary schools or private schools, but they need to step up on the plate to produce a ruling elite that are responsible citizens and have a freaking brain and know how to use it, instead of just brown nose their way to the top. But you also need, your educational systems for everybody, to educate them. Not everybody's going to be a doctor. Not everybody's going to be a lawyer. Not everybody's going to be an astronaut. And you don't want to promote that. If everybody was that, who's going to take out the trash? And not everybody has the intelligence or the desire to do those. And they have perfectly respectable jobs and should be treated with respect and earn a decent living. So, typical of rah, the third right or the fourth right is wunderbar. I'm sorry, all of them are Fourth Reichers. They can definitely, say, no, I'm not. And here's the proof. I have no problem with that from where I'm sitting. And the information that I've presented to all of these people ad nauseum, along with many, many, many others. But, Miss Charlotte, I told two friends who told two friends who told two friends who told two friends. That's the power of networking. But if you tell two friends who tell two friends who tell two friends of, oh, we don't like her, so we're not going to invite her to our parties, which is the bottom line. And this is a well-established fact. I was not popular at Foxcroft. My younger sister just loves to I didn't excel at Foxcroft like she did because I wasn't amongst the popular girls. I'm like, I never bought into that lifestyle for 1 minute. Oh, sure. I like some of the parties when I was young and getting dressed up and, you know, in high heels and, you know, wearing grown-up dresses for once and not having my mom's Florence Iceman straight jackets on me. So sure, you know, when you're that age, you like to go to some parties, but after a while, it gets really, really, really old, believe me. I don't know how people can embrace a lifestyle of that. It's beyond me. It really is. And you know, I organize parties all the time. In fact, I prefer organizing parties. I guess that's from my waiting days. You know, you well also, yeah, when you're hostessing a party, you gotta mingle, and you can do it with a plate in your hand. And you kill two birds with one stone. So anyway, then there's another Liz Hazard. She's from '82. I'm not sure what Liz is doing now. Chloe Durham. She's from my class. She was she's the, you know, class rep that was voted in when we left, who's supposed to, I guess, follow and keep in contact with the people of her class. I wonder if she's ever read anything, any of my postings, anything that I've, you know, written, any of the problems that I'm exposing. I mean, we're talking, you know, crimes against humanity. We're talking the same stuff as the Auschwitz crap. And you know, everybody then said, oh my Lord, how could the German people have turned a blind eye to all of this? I mean, here we see it. And nobody can say, oh, I didn't know. I'm like, well, it's plastered on my Facebook page. I've got 2 activism websites with all the information free of charge. I mean, you guys got so much freaking money. You know, my war on domestic terrorism, I do have a PayPal donate thing, but I've never gotten any money from there. I don't solicit any money. I wouldn't, because I know it's a conflict of interest. But hell, how much do all of these little ladies give away each year? I mean, okay, another issue. Yes, I'm not a tax-free NGO, and there's a good damn reason for that. You put yourself in a conflict of interest. I'm sorry, that's one of the problems. All of these, you know, nonprofits, in one way or another, it's a scam, a window dressing bullshit. And you scratch below the surface, and if the courts were doing this job, the regulators were doing their jobs, which the NGOs should be calling out. See the conflict of interest there? So they don't. Hope Jones, I'm not sure what Hope's doing these days. She's from my sister's class the year below me. Oh, then there's Vicky Threlfall. She's LGBT. Gay, homosexual, I don't know what the politically correct term is these days. She's from my class. She has a daughter that graduated in 21. Now she's something like the president, but she's with an association of psychologists. My Lord, my beef with the psychologist is like, you know, at 100%, well, 1,000%. Because one of the main problems within the court is the lawyers don't know what they're doing or don't want to, whatever the reason may be. They're not producing the evidence. They're not presenting the cases to the judges. The judges, even if they do, the judges don't want to be bothered. They're pissed off that they're in family court. They want something exciting like homicide. So they don't give a shit. And so it's been passed off to court psychologists. Now there's and this is war on domestic terrorism. It's a Spanish. It was a report done by, a Spanish NGO. Yes, these NGOs have produced a lot of good reports and statistics, but they just churn out more and more and more and more and more, but nobody does anything. It's like, yeah, you already said that. Yeah, you already said that. Yeah, you already said that. I mean, come on. But that it's 85%, if you will, negligence rates, let's say, when it's just a court psychologist involved. When it is a court psychologist and social worker involved in the decision of handing over an abused child to the abuser, it's at 88%. So see, the court psychologists, well, the psychologists in general, because even this gets into our useless marriage counselor in Madrid. That woman is looking at serious problems. We talk about your freaking malpractice and stupidity. I won't go into her right now, but that profession is aiding and abetting just as much as the psychiatrist, which even gets into Freud. And why isn't she interested in any of the issues that I've been exposing about the problems and the role of psychologists and psychiatrists in the perpetuation of abuse in society? She doesn't like me. I mean, no, we were never friends. But for me, we're no longer 15, 16, 17 years old. Is this still just about being friends? Like in the show Friends? And you just turn around. My God, with that show, I was like, this is getting kind of old. I mean, I didn't watch it regularly or anything. I saw some episodes. Some of it was funny. But I was like, hasn't everybody been married or sleeping with everybody else in this little group of friends at one point or another? I was like, is this like merry-go-round or, in musical chairs? So yeah, I'm nobody's friend. Is it that? Or is it that you don't like what my research has exposed and what I'm saying needs to be done within that community, because you're complicit to what's the problems within that community, helping to cover them up, making too much money off of the, being the head of or on this board of an association. Because all of the associations, I mean, my thing is the Expat Wives Club Association, but they're not alone. They're all pulling the same stuff. So, Foxcroft, excuse me, you guys are a Fourth Reicher school, a Nazi Fourth Reicher school. Otherwise, you'd be at least giving me a voice, if not assisting me. And then there's well, I read about the Mars sister, but I did send both of them are out at Foxcroft, or in Middleburg, or the Middleburg area. So I did send, because I said, oh, well, maybe Pam Mars would be interested in assisting me getting some funding for global expats. I can move forward. And my financial situation is all whatever. I get a letter back from her staff, obviously, saying that they have already finished their philanthropic giving and no longer, not open to any more giving for the year. I was like, did you read the letter that I wrote you? I am not, nor have I ever been looking for a donation. I was just like, I am so sick and tired of the lack of reading, understanding of everyone, particularly the MIMBO secretaries, who are all on their high horse and with their little games. But and this is one of the things Foxcroft, I mean, they're all into, women in science, women in science, women in science, particularly the girls that are one in Foxcroft. This is just sending some bimbos, more bimbos, because it's already filled. Oh yeah, I can get, I can get a diploma in science, math and science, get a really good job, a really well-paying job in professions and workplaces of 70 to 90% negligent rates, 85% cronyism rates. So yeah, and then I just kiss ass and rise to my level of incompetence. That's the name of the game. I mean, as I said, one of the things that I appreciated about Foxcroft was it wasn't so, focused on academic excellence, but rather a well-rounded education. That's totally gone from the school. Totally, they bought into the whole narcissism, social climbing, whatever you want to call it, Fourth Riker paradigm that's out there. So, I mean, okay, fine. I'm kind of like, well, it's in God's hands, whoever. This is a book project. I'm like, whatever, it was not meant to be. It's not meant to be. And also, they're too, if people knew the quantity of con artists in the business building communities, it's incredible. And legitimate con artists, I mean, they're producing all sorts of crap. Nobody cares. There is such a money flow into that high-techy world. It's a free-for-all. If you're a good con artist, you're a good salesman, you could sell them a pet rock. I don't know if anybody, the old people out there, remember the pet rocks. This would have been in the 70s. They sold a box with a rock in it and instructions to how to train your pet. So one of the instructions, of course I don't remember it all, but one of the instructions was you put it in the ground, you walk away from it, and then you say, stay, and it'll stay. Then the other is you put it on top of a hill, and then you run down to the bottom of the hill and you say, come, and it'll come. So even as a young child, I was like, wait a second. If you can sell that to people and like make lots and lots and lots of money off of it, this is one screwed up world. You can sell them anything. And the Americans, I mean, it's just, and everybody's following suit. Buy. Give me another gadget. Give me another gadget. Give me another gadget. Oh. The shopping channels and the malls and I mean, believe me, I like my kitchen well stocked. And I want, modern conveniences. For example, bring me back the Electrolux vacuum cleaner that I had when I was in college, that I bought from somebody, which was already, I think, 20 years old or so by the time I got it. I mean, that was the same with my Volkswagen Golf. It was an 89. After that, they all went downhill. The Whirlpool washing machines, they used to last forever. Now they got all this electronic crap and they always break. All of this electronic crap, I mean, yeah, some of it's good, but I mean, our car in Bogota, I mean, if anything went out, the whole thing went out and it'd have to go to the garage. I mean, my Lord, James used to be taking that thing over to the garage to fix some stupid electronic thing several times a month. It was ridiculous. I was like, my God, why put all of this electronic stuff in there if it's just going to create chaos for you? Sure. I remember when the locking system that you could lock and unlock the entire car came in. Yes, that's a good technology, particularly when you have children. But after that, they went a little bit bonkers. So anyway, I diverge and I get off, that's, well, in Foxcroft. But so I'll do Bogota Gay. This is part of the French Expat Association. This is a chapter in Bogota. It's called the FIAF, Fédération Internationale des Étrangers, des Francophones à l'étranger, something like that. FIAF. So this was, I think I also might have already mentioned this, that I had joined Bogota Gay a year after arriving in Bogota, so that would have made it, I think that would be 98 or 99, and served on the board of what they call a vocal. And I used to organize the kids' manual arts activities for the French expats. And I did like American. I did Halloween, which for the French they love because you don't have that in France. So I showed the kids how to, we had a haunted house that we made out of boxes, my kids and I, and these huge boxes. It lasted for about 3 years, but by then the kids had crawled through. Of course, they got kind of destroyed. But yeah, then we used to do Pascua, Easter. So those type of parties for these kids. I'm happy to do that. No more. I actually got tricked into getting on the board because Magellan Orleans, her name is in here, it'll come up later. She had neglected to inform me that by organizing these activities that she was leaving, and that I would serve on the board, because then I would have said no. Because I had already served on the board for 1 year with the American Women's Club, and I stepped down and I was like, no, these Tea Party ladies are just is not my scene. So I don't know, a year and a half or so after I joined the board, maybe 2 years, the president was leaving the country. this is a perpetual problem with expats. You never know how long your husband comes home or leaving. And this is one of the problems of maintaining a career. So she leaves, and they're looking for somebody to present themselves as a new president. And I'm approached, and some of the ladies of the association asked me, and I laughed and I said, you guys, none of these corporate and diplomatic corps franchuches are going to want the Amerloc as their president. I said, no, I'll serve on the board. I'll help, lick stamps, help with the parties and all of the organization stuff. But I mean, so anyway, this woman comes in, and there's two women. One, she's the wife of the president of Air France, and the other one, her husband works at the French embassy. They're a bit younger, because the old woman, is like 1930s, French. So I just was like, I'll come to the board meetings, which was once a month, and help you all out with your parties, and as I say, all of that. I do my thing very happily with manual art stuff, and I'm not gonna start a power struggle with anybody on the board. Believe me, I saw what was going on already with, as I say, 1930, 1950 Tea Party crap, like my mom. So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be involved in this. So they step in. I'm like, well, maybe they're younger. They're, my age. Maybe they'll be receptive to some new ideas. Like, we could maybe do more arts and, events with Colombian music, just more about the local community and the Colombian community, instead of just the stuff that Alliance Française and the French embassy and très culturel, l'attaché culturel de France promeut et des choses comme ça. I was like, let's liven this up a little bit. I'm not going to create a revolution, but my Lord. So I had this one suggestion. It was this Colombian, it's called tiple. But so I had, oh my Lord, it was like I was Robespierre. I mean, we're not going to take any subversive ideas from this American. So I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah, you want to keep it as it is? Again, I'm not going to fight. So then this woman leaves, and the position is open. They're going to close the association because nobody's going to take it. Nobody. I promise you, what I went through, because people are coming to me saying, would you present? And I'm like, they don't want me to present. They don't want me as president. The people in the embassy, the corporate people, and particularly the embassy people, our office was on embassy property. So there's a lot of financial, or how shall I say it, in kind support from the embassy. They control these things in the French corporate world. So I was like, it's going to create problems the entire time. I'm going to be up against a fight the entire time. Like, let's find somebody, a French person, that is acceptable. So, I mean, I lobbied like you wouldn't believe. It was the wife of the president of Ketmatoro and the president of the wife of Carrefour. First, the wife of Carrefour said she would come in. I was going to be vice president. She would be president. Then two little vipers bitches who ended up on my board screwed that whole thing up and created, to this day, I don't know what those little backstabbing. I mean, I wanted to kill him. I wanted to kill him. But then I had to step in and try at the last minute, well, you know, save face and keep him on the board, because otherwise we didn't have enough warm bodies. Look at those little little vicious vipers. Believe me, men, you think those brawls are bad that you guys do? The vicious cat fights that go on with women, and a lot of it is you know, verbal or by looks. Or Phyllis Chesler, Women's Inhumanity to Women. Excellent job of even using the you know, like the hissing cats. You know, like the dogs that they attack, but the cats, that's what women do. And all of these NGOs, associations, charity work, all of that stuff is just a breeding ground for these little bitches. And the money flow is just from the development community like you can't believe. And all they're doing is producing jobs for themselves. So anyway, what I wanted to point out here, that's, I don't know if I've gone into how I ended up with Bogota guy. Le cadeau pourri, because a month and a half after, there was a coup d'etat to try and oust me by the two little bitches who had ousted the Carrefour president, his wife, before the election. Oh my lord! I mean, I was like, my God, you guys, do you watch like Dynasty and Dallas to figure out what your next move is gonna be, you little bitches? If you would stop spending so much time and energy backstabbing me and trying to defame my character and get me out of here so you can step in as president and vice president, and then the association really, I mean, if I had stepped down and everybody had found out all of the crap that had gone on, you know, 90%, I think, of the people would have left the association, and it would have totally self-destructed. But no, these ladies just didn't care one little bit. All they cared about was they had wanted to be president. Well, also, I think the one who really wanted to be president, she was Puerto Rican, married to a French guy. So I wonder if she didn't have a French nationality, which I don't understand why she wouldn't if she was married to a French guy. Or maybe it was just that she knew nobody would vote her in. And this was her only manner to, who knows, who cares? But I mean, but believe me, it is a soap opera out there with the women. And you know, particularly the Real Housewives and Stepford Wives and Trophy Wives. I mean, I don't care the name, but who need to get a life. So anyway, I may have also mentioned this, I don't know. But at one coffee morning, it was, you know, several months before I'm going to become president, and the elections are upcoming. And, or maybe it was even like a year before. Anyway, somebody comes up to me at one of these French coffee mornings and says, because I went to the French, I went to the Spanish. Uh, she said to me, oh, somebody told me to ask you where, where to find this, where to find out this, who this is, who that is. And they said that you know everything. I just crackle, I laughed under my breath because I said, I know these ladies. I don't think they meant it as a compliment because most of them can't stand me because I always have to be doing something when they're at the country clubs, just like the Spanish ladies who at least admit it instead of just gossip behind my back and pretend to be my friends to my face. I mean, like, you guys think you're fooling me? You're not. This is part of, being, how shall I say, the emissary, the representative of your family within that world. And integrating, because, one of the things that you learn as an expat and moving into new communities continually, to move countries with new languages is also for me, I don't know, for me, I was kind of like, well, like when we moved to England, my biggest problem was not like with the people. My biggest problem first was where'd the sun go? I was from Tucson, Arizona, and we moved in end of November to beginning of December. So I'm like, I'd never seen any place in the world where the sun went down at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it was dark. And then also, hot water in cold climates is not a luxury. Particularly when you come from Tucson, Arizona, where you always have hot water. So that was my big culture shock when to England. After that, I mean, people are people. You just, okay, you have to learn the language and you have to learn about the nuances of their culture. But other than that, it's all pretty much the same. But you do have to, you cannot be timid, and you have to go out and, well, who's this, who's that, particularly if you have a family and children, and you want a social life for your children and everything that goes on with, well, building a social life for your family, which is the main job of the trailing spouse, or spouses who don't work. I always said that to me, did you work? I'm like, yes, of course I did. Nobody ever paid me for it, but I worked. So anyway, what is leadership about? Is it hanging out and schmoozing with a bunch of bigwigs and telling everybody how important you are? Or is it actually accomplishing something? Which is the reason, I mean, Governor Cuomo, from everything that I saw and heard during the COVID, was the only one who was cared, or one of the few, and really doing a good job and taking charge. And that's why they're attacking him. It's age old story, age old story, age old story. So let's do, okay, well, since we're on the women, let's do Lucy Herman. As I said, Lucy, I've known all my life. In fact, I mean, literally since I can remember, because she says she always remembers when she came over to our house the first time. I was 3 years old. And she remembered because I had answered the door. So, so anyway, she was my older sister's best friend, and she would even come on vacations with us. family vacations, she lived with her grandmother. She and her younger brother lived with her grandmother in our neighborhood. I mean, they were one of the closest houses to us. If you look at Tucson and the Catalina Foothills, where I grew up, back then there was nothing out there. It was all desert, all of it. And there was our house, the Franklin's house, Lucy's house, her grandmother's house. Within that area, this is a pretty big area. I think those were the only houses, because then everything else was built up after that. So, I mean, I'm talking like desert. And even when for some reason or whatever, my mom wasn't going to be home, we had something and we were going to be home, she would notify the school and we'd go to Lucy's grandmother's house after school instead of home, and then my mom would pick us up there because she was very good friends with my mom. So, I mean, I know Lucy from really all my life. Now, so we lost contact because her grandmother passed away. She died very suddenly. I mean, she had a wheelchair, and I remember she also had an oxygen tank, but she had a wheelchair, and in their garage, we used to set up obstacle courses and would take the wheelchair around in the obstacle courses and have to drive it through. So I do remember she had a wheelchair. So she had some health issues, and then she suddenly died, and I remember as well because we went to pick up Lucy that day because, I guess they told my mom, or, so my mom was notified. Then she stayed with us until her father came from Phoenix to pick her up, because she had a problematic family. Her mom was schizophrenic, her father was alcoholic. So, I'm not, other than that, I don't know anything more about the story. But so that's why she and her brother had been living with the grandmother. So then she left, and it was when I was on Capitol Hill working for Bennett Johnston. I had been, this is when I'm in college. I was living on Calorama, so this must have been my junior year. So I'm going over to the Capitol, to the flag shop or whatever it was called, flag shop, please. And she ends up at the same place, and I overhear her saying from Deacon Cini office, and I kept on looking at her, and I was like, oh my God, that looks like Lucy all grown up. I mean, after she left Tucson, I don't know, I think there was something with her father and my mother. We never really, I think we saw her once or twice after that. And so I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, wow. So when I get back to my office, I call, because I'm like, is that her? Is that her? And I call his office and I say, do you have a Lucy Herman working there? They said, yes. And I said, oh my goodness, she wasn't in, have her call me back. So that's how we hooked up. And I mean, I'm working full time and up on the Hill in the mornings, and at restaurants and nightclubs at night. So, I mean, I saw her, we had dinner. I went to, I think, a party one time that she invited me to, but I didn't have any time for really socializing, nor money. And so, I mean, I saw her, but she was also very much into the whole intellectual, the career, I would say, academics who are now in the positions of power. And she's a perfect example, because she and her husband have always been, back and forth between, I could never keep track, Stanford, Berkeley, and Harvard. And there at Stanford, her husband, Phil Malone, was on the team for the on DOJ staff, which went after Bill Gates. Her husband's a nice guy. I don't know. Lucy says, he said that I'd gone on a date with him when you know, in the 80s. I mean, I don't really remember. I'm like, are you kidding? I was like just trying to survive. Yeah, I dated a few guys, but some were nice. I mean, well, anyway, I don't really remember. But well, maybe that's also Lucy's problem, because she's no different than my sisters. I mean, she was like a sister to me. I'm like, yeah, well, with the two real sisters, biological sisters I have, who needs anything else? So she's over at Stanford Law now, and into, you know, she's helped design curriculums. I think that's what she did over at Harvard for law schools. Now she's in all of that at Stanford Law. But I mean, why have Lucy and Phil, because it's actually Phil who is on Facebook, who does much more of the Facebook stuff than Lucy does. Why haven't they looked at anything I've been doing all of these years? Why am I not getting any support from the law schools? For them, Stanford, Berkeley. I've got Suda Shetty over at Berkeley with the Hague Convention Domestic Violence Project. That, quite frankly, is part of the problem. You know, why are all of these different universities and law schools involved in either propagating propaganda and programs that are just covering up for the problems and producing window dressing to make it look like somebody is doing something and investigating these things? You know, I mean, what we need is for the courts to be fixed up. I mean, I'm demonstrating that all of this stuff comes under RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, the Patriot Act. Lucy came, it was for my parents' memorial service on the Zoom. I mean, I'm trying, because all of these years, you know, I'm you know, same as any, you know, everybody else. Oh, I got a meeting to go to. Bye-bye. Doesn't respond to emails. Just ignores me. Just cancels me. But if anybody should understand what I'm talking about when I'm saying, you guys, this is, you know, this is protection rackets that you are involved in. And if you continue to turn a blind eye, it's just more and more proof that you're of bad faith and that you are a terrorist and that you do want to contribute to, you know, to the chaos that is gripping this country. As I say, everybody has the right to defend themselves, but that's where things stand from where I'm sitting and what I've been, the evidence, the facts that I've produced for everybody. So is it something personal against me? Is it, which is the same reason that my sisters have been pulling all of their crap. And my mother and, you know, everybody else. Which is the bottom line. I'm like, no, you guys want to, you are threatened because, you know, if the corruption is cleaned up, you're not going to be sitting pretty. So of course, and I keep on, ad nauseum, even if you shut me up, this house of cards coming down one way or another, either legally or through a bloodbath and revolution. But the ruling elite do have a role in the other cards, so let's do these. In all of this. So okay. How long? See, sorry. When you get me on a roll on these little bitches who are, just wanting to rule the world and destroy the world, it's my go-to. So, oops. This is IMF, ICD, World Bank. Oh, the social media campaigns and action plans for SDGs. This I pretty much already went in with Foxtrot, but here I am, with the social media campaign based on we need to return to the Puritan movement. With my with my family tree, and I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, the other stuff, we can look at my grandmother and her maiden name and her mother's maiden name, but Thomas Wilcox and Quenby Wilcox, I mean, somewhere along the line there, and this goes back to the 1500s, so somewhere along the line there's a connection. And the Wilcox family is, we've got lots of, David Wilcox was one of the founders of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, one of the first, in those documents, one of the originals was a David Wilcox. So, and you have Wilcoxes all over the place in American early colonial history. And then the Quenby family, because Quenby is actually a surname that's from the same region as Wilcox. So, I mean, there, I don't think I need expert genealogy, I don't know what they call them, to confirm that there would be a family connection. So, with the Puritan movement, I'm like, come on, you guys. And I'm not just coming in there going, oh, hi, you guys. Guess what? I have these people in my family tree, so let's have a party and do something like everybody else. I mean, yeah, if I was doing that, you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, well, great lady, fine, who cares? But it's after the research, and nobody will look at all of this stuff, and nobody will, read. So I go for the branding campaigns. And so I developed first, it was from the founding fathers. Everybody's talking about the founding fathers. Okay, let's talk, and we'll talk about John Dickinson and John Paul Jones, who are in my family tree. Then, the whole debutante thing and the queens that it has produced. I'm like, okay, well, I can catch there as well. I can trump you there as well, because I'll do one on Queen Bee. But it's not, I do have substance behind all of these branding campaigns, with the Emily Post. Oh, I've got, because I have this book, I mean, it's huge on etiquette. I'm going to put some cards together on that and talk on some of those subjects. But why did I bring in the Emily Post? Well, because Emily Post combated some of the damages she's in New York society, not Washington. But some of the damages that the flappers and that libertine society had done, which is applicable today. We need a new Emily Post. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll do another branding campaign using Emily Post. But it's not without substance. So, you know, all of these branding campaigns, I mean, as I say, isn't that what they do for cows? And all of them are just all smoke and propaganda and bullshit. So, you know, the Institute for Capacity Development, a lot of the research that I was doing was the 4 years that I was there. That was from 2011 to 2015. I got the same attitude from everybody in the department as I've gotten everywhere else, like in this house. Oh, you're an idiot. You're a stupid trophy wife. Well, they're going to be in for a rude awakening. I mean, everybody was like, you know, oh, you talk about is this researcher doing, that researcher doing this and that and that. Like, yeah, and at this levels, you should be listening to this, interested in this, and understanding what I'm talking about, instead of just as stupid as the you know, cokeheads and dishwashers that I have living in the houses where I am. And I don't care if the people in the IMF had a PhD or were the secretaries. All of them, yes, good brown nosers. But, and just, you know, punch the clock, punch the clock, punch the clock. Just like in all of the agencies I found and throughout Washington. Everybody's following the leader. Follow the leader, leader, leader. And where's the leader? A bunch of cheerleaders. A bunch of high school dropout cheerleaders and social climbing bitches. These are the deep state. Invisible hand, deep state, anything you want to call it. So all of the, because the Governor Cuomo's daughter, one of his daughters, is you know, some SDG campaigner or something. I want to know how much money all of the development community is spending on think tanks, of those statistics basically, NGOs. So much money is being wasted on all of this stuff. It's bullshit. And the sustainable development goals, if you do not get rid of the narcissism epidemic, you do not clean up your businesses, your banking system, everything, the SDGs will just end up producing the same income inequality as the trickle down did. It's basically the same principle. So, you know, hold on, another thing. What is this? So basically that's, you know, another place where the development community, the feminists, because I don't have any statistics either, but I think there's a big portion of women, for example, in HR, these social media campaigns, which are just basically just spreading gossip. It's just like, you know, going to the tea parties and gossiping, but you get paid a lot of money to do it. And same, going to the conferences, going to the seminars, spreading gossip. ideologies that are meant to oppress. So then for pack number 3, we've got Ben Carson, Secretary of HUD, Housing and Urban Development. Okay, rags to riches story. He's a vegan. Well, says I'm not sure if he's. Yeah, he's a big Trump, pro-Trump. But so he's vegan. Went to Yale on full scholarship. His mother got pregnant with him when she was 13 and her father was 28. So where were the feminists on pedophilia with this? You know, this is another thing. Why is it okay to be marrying them at 13, 14, 15, 16, you know, 7, under the age of 18? Why is it okay if you marry them, but not okay if you just sleep with them? I fail to see. So once again, another profile of rags to riches, Black, African, Afro-American, just interested in grappling up the ladder of success, and who cares who you get in bed with. So the last card is Marco Rubio, senator from Florida. Okay, he's another rags to riches story. Everybody is. Everybody. Except the old guard money from the robber barons. Okay, of course, big Trump supporter. He's from University of Miami, which, you know, all of these universities who've been turning these people out for decades need to be held to account. Career politician, I think what it was, you know, after university, he's one of these, well, I'm just going to get, you know, become an elected official. You get up on a podium, you get lots of speeches. If people like you, they vote you into office, and it's a, you know, cushy life. Dumb bimbo wife. A Cuban American with claims of political refugees from Castro. I mean, that's what everybody claims. So, and I have bought FIU, Florida International University professorship. So, you know, yet another, but let me come to the land of opportunity to cash in. So let's see what Alice in Wonderland has to say. One more. Oh, no, let's do this. Oh, I didn't pull my cards. I always forget that. Okay, the first card for me is a joker. Second card for me is an ace of diamond. Queen B trumps a Trump. Queen B trumps the feminist. A Queen B trumps everybody here. I mean, sure, it's catchy. You need to have, you know, catchy mottos and easy messages, because otherwise, you know, you can't sit there. You need to have some of these, you know, the short little message type things and different campaigns that attract people's attention. But if it's just to attract people's attention, to attract attention for yourself, not too good in my book. So for Foxcroft and the IMF, ICD, and the SDGs, we've got, it was careless of him to put another man's helmet on with the man in it too. Well, all of you feminists, you know, you put on the helmet of the men and the abusive men, not changing anything, just getting in bed with all of that bullshit. So then we got Bogut, that guy, oh, president bullshit. Then Ben Carson's for the second, that's the king of hearts. Consider my dear, she's only a child. I don't know, is this on my leadership of all of these little ladies to wake up to the reality of what's going on in their communities while they're off too busy shopping and having tea and schmoozing. And I mean, this is what's incredible. The woman who says Cuomo is too affectionate, and that's all I want to do. My Lord, I'm like, ugh, you know, because it's all so phony. Believe me, the ladies that you see out there, oh yeah, I see them. ¿Cómo está? The most superficial out there, and I don't care what language they're talking. So third pile, which is Lucy Herman and Marco Rubio. And I don't know if anybody ever saw a Cocaine Cowboy movie. Check that out. I mean, we had Washington was the murder capital of the world back in the 80s. Check out Cocaine Cowboy. Miami was worse. I mean, the lawlessness that was in that place. And they just, you know, move it around. So they get, oh, Tiger Lily, I wish you could talk. Maybe about giving us a voice from the law schools. And then for me, that's the reason they're called lessons, because they lesson from day to day. Well, will my lessons to the world lessen the burden a little bit from day to day? I don't know. Anyway, I think that part's a lot of fun. So have a nice evening, and wear your masks. And if you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated. See, you know, it's a short message. I don't have to go into, you know, bringing out all of the documents to explain why it is necessary. So have a nice evening. Good night.